A story is rarely happening to just one person. Multiple people will become involved at some point, and each of them will have their own story to tell as a result of the different perspectives. Sometimes it's only through examining all of these perspectives that we get a clearer picture of what the true sequence of events is, and sometimes if that event happens to multiple people, that means a lot of different perspectives to include for us to find. Such is the case with the subject of today's video, Little Red's Transfer to, also known as Vessel of Notion, and all of the associated extras and hidden videos, or at least what's been found to my knowledge. Firstly, before we move on to discussing the video, I want to give a big thanks to the Discord community around this series, who basically did most of the legwork of finding all the hidden videos and content scattered around. They compiled a document of these things, which I'll link in the description below, and honestly their work has helped me keep track of every little clue and bit of content while writing this script. Before we begin, please keep in mind that this is just the first of a multiple part video. There's a lot of stuff to get through this time, and if you don't see something mentioned or discussed here, it could just be in another part. I'm going to talk about what we see first mostly, before I start trying to piece anything together. And as always, be aware that this is an entry of a VHS horror series, and therefore there will be disturbing imagery involved. While I ask that you watch the videos I cover as well as my own videos, I don't want you to upset yourself as a result. Take care of yourself. I also ask that you view my previous Little Reds talking about videos so you're caught up on my theories and thoughts so far. And with that out of the way, let's begin. Buckle up, this is going to be a long ride. Vessel of Notion is a video that takes on the format of a rough documentary compiled of clips put together roughly. It comes across as something that hasn't been done by a big production company, but rather a hobbyist who is still practicing the art. The video starts on a black screen with the sound of white noise in the background, and eventually a musical track fades in and we hear a man speaking. He introduces us to Informational Inquisitor and our host, JJ. People who've been following this series so far might recall that JJ was mentioned by Ivan to be another one of the people looking for details about the incident that Illusion Plus was attempting to hide. He then goes on to tell us a story related to the reopening of a local chain called Harry's Frozen Emporium, an ice cream shop that used to contain an arcade. He recounts this tale from his childhood of a friend, Zeke, who during the 2nd or 3rd grade placed his tickets on the floor where another child attempted to swipe them. Unfortunately, Zeke is described as being an interesting guy who was always aware of his surroundings and continues to be up to the present. At this point, the staticky white noise that has been behind the audio dips briefly before it resumes as JJ continues. The kid stood up with Zeke's tickets, and apparently Zeke clocked the kid, knocking him out. JJ remarks that this is probably why those arcade games got removed from the place. He then assures the listeners that he is fine and they laughed about the incident recently, but doesn't specify whether he's talking about Zeke or the kid he hit. He then stops talking as the music fades back in, but the music gets stuck at a certain point, skipping and repeating a few second loop of the track before it completely cuts off. After a short period of more white noise and black screen, words fade in on screen. Hello, it's been a while, but I promise you that I've been working very hard to gather as much information as possible. I even picked up a few editing skills to help this process go a bit smoother. The number of video clips, images, articles and audio files I found is astronomical. And I hope you can all piece together whatever may be occurring within this company's history. It's disturbing to say the least. I don't recommend anyone who is easily unsettled to continue watching this. But I do hope you all pull through. I need you. All of you. In the midst of this message for a few seconds, we see a YouTube link before it fades out. This is a link to one of many different pieces of hidden video and content scattered throughout this video, as well as prior videos, but we'll come back to those later on. Based on the words of this message, it seems that the person who has compiled this video is unable to definitively put together a narrative of what actually happened, and is sharing the video now not just for the sake of curiosity or remembrance, but to get more eyes onto this content and hopefully together work it out. The mention of editing brings to mind the description of Count Your Years, yet I'm not sure if this is the same person as whoever typed that. Again, the upload of Count Your Years seemed hyped to finding the old cartoons, and this person doesn't sound as excited. In fact, it sounds more like whoever wrote the description for the very first Little Red's transfer video. At the same time though, I'm not entirely sure if they are the same, as whoever is now communicating with us is trying to solve the mystery beyond just figuring out one unfinished tape transfer on CD. The mention of learning the editing also lends credence to my earlier thought that the documentary we're watching was composed by someone who has less experience in making one. Based on things we later see and read, I do have an idea on who I think this could be, but I'll get to that once we've covered all the content we've been offered. The words fade and music begins again, and we see a television advert for Little Reds, one we've seen parts of in prior videos. This is the advert we first saw underneath Ivan's first message in Little Red's transfer, and we've also seen some of the text pop up in the final segment of Pulling the Curtains. Overlaid on this advert are shots of a house and text telling us that a stash of computer discs, video cassettes and documentations were discovered in the wooden backing of a cabinet, supposedly at the house shown. We're then shown a picture of a man in a suit, shot side on and facing left, as we're told that what was found on them was beyond a simple employee guide, and was instead a gateway to a gut-wrenching reality. Well, actually it says gut-reaching, but I've been assured that's a mistake. Anyway, we then get told that what we're about to see is a bunch of unfinished transfers with first-hand accounts from former employees included. Above this is a photo of a little red animatronic with its body endoskeleton laid bare. Then we see the title card for the documentary, and thus the video, Little Red's Transfer to A Vessel of Notion. Underneath the title reads, a collection of lost footage from the Illusion Plus entertainment franchise. The background is a video of someone descending a staircase in the dark, a flashlight beam lighting their way, the staircase located inside a tight corridor. The screen then goes black again, but not entirely. There is a clearly defined line on the right hand side and something to the left. Brightening it, it could just be a graphical leftover, but the bit to the left is shaped a little bit like a head partially in shadow. We then get an informational screen on what we're about to see, a tape called Setting Sail Introduction Tape. Playing is a soundtrack that will be used throughout to link together sections, which I'm going to call the linking track. The text is to the right of the screen, while an image of a cruise ship takes up the left with the date of July 18th, 2013 underneath, supposedly dating the time this clip was produced, or maybe last worked upon. Introduction tape announcing the Comet Cruise Line's Illusion Plus Entertainment Partner Deal campaign. This association is what caused the franchise rebranding of each Comet cruise ship, introducing the world to Little Red's marine mania. This particular DVD was left undeveloped and still maintains notes and encryptions from editors and employees who had parts within its production. Suspects Cara Martinez and Andrew Davison were the first employees of the Illusion Plus Entertainment brand to express an interest in the disappearance of Ivan Carpenter. Communication between the two began through still frames used as placeholders for the scenes that were either missing or unfinished. Employees refer to these frames as the back halls and were sometimes used by staff to communicate with one another since their emails were heavily monitored. Other variations of the back halls have not been identified. The screen eventually fades out and then back in on an off-white screen with slight letterboxing and the three coloured bars of Illusion Plus in the bottom left corner going up and down in a loading graphic. The sound is just more white noise, slightly louder than before, until some honestly very funky music starts playing. We see the Illusion Plus Entertainment logo on screen with animated cross-frame waves reflected within the three bars. Underneath, some text appears on screen, but it's much too small and fuzzy to make out. The music fades out and the logo vanishes along with the text. More small text blinks up at the base of the screen in the white noise silence, but again it's very small and hard to make out. It fades, the music fades back in, and a photo of a man in a suit fades on screen, moving across from the right and giving the screen a thumbs up as a DVD menu appears on the left of the screen with the title of Introductory Home Video and three options: Play Feature, Scene Select and Setup Menu. Behind all of this are two lines, one red and one dark blue, moving across the screen in a lazy wave shape. Eventually the screen fades as we see an arrow click on the Play Feature option, playing us the Setting Sail tape. It starts by fading in on an image of a letter marked with an Illusion Plus logo, so we can assume it's either a job offer letter or an employee pack of resources needed for the job this video is for. Alongside the letter is a pack marked Digital Cater with a visual of a little redhead wearing a snorkel and mask. Underneath we see the narration being subtitled. The narrator informs the listener that they've been hired and welcomes them to the Illusion Plus brand, before the picture slides down with a click, sounding like that of an old-fashioned projector. A new image, one of a television presenting the screen for a show Woodland Pals with a coffee mug next to it bearing yet another cartoonish Little Red image, appears in its place. Little Red is more wolfish in depiction than the prior cartoon Red we've seen from the first video, and underneath the Woodland Pals title are the words "A production by Barley Tales." The narrator advises us to make ourselves comfortable before the image slides down to be replaced by an image of some Little Red's merchandise. These include pages of what looks like a comic, some badges with Lox's and Galley's face on them, what appears to be a wristwatch with Little Red's face on it, and finally the lunchbox we first saw back in Count Your Years. We're told that Illusion Plus became aware they needed to do something big to keep their characters in the spotlight after so long. Oddly, while the narrator reads out the full Little Red, the subtitles underneath miss out the red part of the name. The narration goes on to tell us that Illusion Plus has partnered with many companies over the year, but this new deal with Comet has blown all other competitors out of the water. We see a series of 3 photos looking as if they come from a disposable camera, 2 showing off the same business seat man we've seen plenty of times prior, one being with a crowd behind them, and the third involving a handshake between people. They mention that Comet has taken them under their fin and allowed Red access to the seas. At this point, while the narration continues, the visuals vanish and instead are replaced by an animated graphic of a disc with Little Red's face on it slowly being ejected from a disk drive that also shows the business-suited man. On screen are the words, "Visual corruption error. Laserdisc DVD detected an issue. Please check over the safety guide to properly ensure proper use of DVD. Contact number should be displayed on the DVD case." We are then told that we will be given a brief history on the Little Red's establishment and that the latest venture goes far beyond what has come before. At this point the visuals come back, showing us a home video-esque shot of a diner establishment by a road. We were informed that Little Red started out as a single location back in 1953, with Little Red's frozen custard, something we've already seen referenced in development images from Pulling the Curtains. We're shown a black and white graphic of what was presumably a flyer for the first location, with a cartoon Little Red stood outside the place. We also learned that the first location was located in San Francisco, California. Soon the company was opening up locations all over the United States, and we see another previous logo, the You've Got Scout version, posted up above a mall building with neon lighting spelling out the words Food Court underneath. We're told that it was thanks to the popularity of the locations that Little Red was able to take their business into malls and other larger locations. We're then told that Illusion Plus were aware that burgers, ice cream and bowling wouldn't support the Little Red's franchise forever, so they partnered with another company to create the first Little Red's animatronic, Collide Atomic Creation. This is, again, another part of the lore we saw being hinted at through development images in Pulling the Curtains. The narration also mentions that the Collide animatronic of Red was the first one brought into the world, not counting the prototypes. This animatronic apparently proved a hit, and soon many locations had not only their own robotic Little Red, but many animatronics of the other popular characters. Again, the subtitles differ from what is being spoken. While the narrator says their establishments, the subtitles read your establishments. We were told that Little Red was put into the main dining room, whereas locks would be located in the Sky Maze, but nothing in the narration suggests that these placements are anything more than possibilities instead of being the positions they'd always be in. The narration talks about how the animatronics were the right direction for the brand, but they eventually ran up against the same issue again. While the robots were getting more advanced, engagement because of them was beginning to dip again, and Illusion Plus Entertainment needed to find a new angle. Again, during this part, the visual corruption error screen is displayed. As the narration begins to tell us about the new location and new audience that they have found, suddenly the video cuts out and there is a brief flash of a blue screen. This is the first of this video's The Back Halls, as they were called. For the sake of this script and it not sounding awkward, I'll henceforth be calling each one of these screens a back hall. In it, we see Kara and Andrew opening communications for the first time. "Hey Ivy, my company email is literally broken. Are you having the same issue? I swear I've tried everything. This is my 4th time logging off and shutting down my computer, and if I don't get it to work soon, I'm gonna get yelled at again, lol. Anyway, I was thinking of using these placeholder frames to talk until I get my email back, I guess. And since we are the only ones working on this video, maybe we can gossip a bit. You won't believe how badly that new intern is doing. It is unfortunate. Kara, Visual Director." "Aye, sorry to inform you, but Ivy said she's dropping this video and instead she's working on that Little Red's cartoon tape they found earlier today. Also try entering your email through the company website. It worked for me a few months ago. Andrew, Clipping Manager." "I'm embarrassed. Andrew, it's nice to meet you. I'm Kara. I work in the art department. I'll be making the animations and sprites for this video. I thought my friend would be working on this film with me, so I was just goofing around. So sorry about that. Kara, Visual Director." "Oh no, you don't have to apologise. Honestly, this is the most entertainment I've had all day. Editing can get tiring. But yeah, I'm Andrew. I do most of the transition work and stuff, so hopefully I won't be getting in your way too much. Also, I'm so down to be your gossip buddy if that role is still available. Andrew, Clipping Manager." "Permission granted, Andrew. You've now been promoted to gossip buddy, Lamal. On my end, I'm just now finishing up the drawings that will be going in the beginning sequence. I was thinking it would be cool if we gave them a tilting animation instead of a simple fade in and out. And then we will switch over to that commercial scene as soon as we get that footage. I don't know, what do you think is best? Also, I just put my email in through the website, but it just isn't working. Then again, I don't use the website often. I usually get my updates and reminders through my email. Kara, visual director. The video then switches briefly back to the off-white loading screen and the background music stops before everything fades out. On screen we then see the text. Footage found outside the home of Tonya Cassidy. Upon entering the home, her body laid lifeless on the floor of her bedroom. This incident was later connected to the disappearance of Ivan Carpenter. No other information has been disclosed. AR Little Rock location. We then see a video filmed seemingly outside, showing a window as we hear a woman crying. There is then a gunshot as she continues to cry before the sound begins to glitch and the footage stops. It is then replaced by something that seems to be an interactive game or novel, shot as if someone is filming the screen it is being played on. In it, we see Gally in a visual we've seen in her initial reveal suite. Gally is stood in the same house from Count Your Years, and to her right is a mirror. She addresses the screen, saying she didn't see them there, but then asks them to clean the mirror off for her as she wants to go out but needs to put on makeup. She pulls up a cloth, and underneath her, as the person holding the camera adjusts their grip and tilts it slightly, we see another small YouTube link pop up briefly. Again, we'll come back to these. The camera looks between Gally and the mirror as the goose waits, asking if the player can find a washcloth. The player finds one, and Gally directs them to spray the mirror with water, which they do, then clean by using the cloth in a circular motion. The camera turns from the screen to look around in the darkness to their right as Gally counts the time spent cleaning. As the first cleaning is finished, the camera turns back and Gally asks that the player do it again. The camera again looks away from the screen into the darkness, this time to the left, and we faintly see the outlines of various screens on this side. Gally's counting suddenly distorts, and the camera turns back to the screen, and as Gally goes to ask for the cleaning to be repeated a third time, she suddenly morphs into a more realistic bird. Of note also is that the picture frame behind her that previously showed Little Red is suddenly dark, the only picture frame that seems to have changed. In the mirror appears some characters which the Discord have made out to be, with the AN at least being clearly visible. The person filming this gasps in mild horror, shifting backwards from the screen as it stays frozen on the image, and we hear a woman scream as the scene fades out. The screen stays dark for a bit, playing the linking track before it fades and we return to the off-white loading screen again. We then fade into an advert for Little Red's Marine Mania, with the video footage of the ad being placed upon a cartoony backdrop as the longest-snouted cartoon Red hovers in the bottom left corner, seemingly watching the advert too. The female narrator attempts to sell us on Little Red's Marine Mania as a choice for a family vacation, as a child voice joins them to tell us about the fun. On screen we're told that the ships have an endless supply of fun. The female narrator tells us that the ships offer a variety of environments, rides and entertainments, and of course the animatronic entertainers, family fun at a low price. The child tells us that while Mum and Dad are shopping, they get to go down the biggest water slide at sea. On screen we see the words shopping galore, clothing, toys, souvenirs, and the cartoon Little Red changes from his calm watching pose to one with his mouth open and arms up, looking away from the advert as if he's trying to spook or scare someone. Just after this there is another flash of blue, the second back hall screen. Yeah, I think we should be getting that commercial pretty soon, and I can put it in for you. And it's weird that the website isn't working on your end. I swear it worked for me. How about I come over to your department later today? I can get your email working and then we can get this video done by Friday? Andrew, clipping manager. God, I hope so. These videos are so repetitive, and the characters are so fucking scary. Ivy gets to work on a damn cartoon while I have to sit and watch robots and arcade cleaning tutorials. Ugh. Kara, visual director. If it makes you feel any better, she's working on the puppet show from the 60s. I don't think she's having too much fun either. Those things are also fucking scary. Andrew, clipping manager. I've never actually seen or heard about there being Little Red's puppet show. Is that where he actually came from? Kara, visual director. Apparently he was first released out to the public via comic book in like 1952 or 51. Then he became a walk-around mascot at drive-in theatres and carnivals. I think the original idea for him was that he would chase and humiliate children who were misbehaving in the lines for rides or something. Real messed up shit. Then Hayden's wife decided he'd be better off if he were more kid-friendly, since he was far too grown up. Lamau. Andrew, clipping manager. Oh wow, I didn't know that. How do you have so much information on all of this? I've worked for Illusion Plus for a year now and have never really been told about the past of the company. Kara, visual director. Yeah, it's cool as hell. I've always been interested in this type of stuff, although it doesn't seem like they like us snooping around here that much. At this point, the final part runs off screen, cutting off anything further Andrew was saying, although the screen does tell us a lot of interesting things I'll talk about later with my theorising part. The video resumes with the female narrator telling us about the eating places on board the ship, but for a single frame, another blue back hall screen is seen, except it seems to be mixed with the actual video frame underneath, and whatever text might be on it, potentially the rest of whatever Andrew was saying, cannot be made out. The video continues on to let us know that the children's play area is visible from the eating areas. We then get a list of more things for the adults to enjoy: massages, sport bars, indoor gyms, private pools, and a casino on board. The first 4 of these are presented with icons, each featuring a character from Illusion Plus's roster, but the first 2, the massage place with Gally and the sports bar with a new pig character, are stretched off the bottom of the screen and slightly at the top, while both Lox's gym and Little Red's private pool logos are untouched. We then get another back hall frame. Ivan Carpenter, the guy who went missing in the warehouse in Arkansas? Yeah, I've heard of him. Was he ever found? Kara, visual director. Yeah, dead. After messing with shit he wasn't supposed to. Which is why I personally choose to do most of my work at home and not at our location. Andrew, clipping manager. Which is also probably why I've never seen you here before, lol. Well, how did he die? What was he messing with? All I know is he went missing, but that's about it. Kara, visual director. From what I know, he was cut up into itty bitty pieces and thrown in a locker. Others say he was burned to death and put in a locker. And then you have people who think he was put into a trunk and driven to McDonald's where he died of high blood pressure and his deadly fear of clowns. Andrew, clipping manager. Oh my god, Andrew, stop, because I'm actually scared of clowns and would actually die because of that, Lamau. But what does the majority think? Like, what is the public opinion on the news articles and stuff? Kara, visual director. That's the thing. No one knows, in fact, where this locker is. The only information left at the crime scene was a recording of him running around the warehouse and then getting into said locker. But even with the footage displayed of the room, once investigators followed his trails, it was nowhere to be seen. So everyone's guess is as good as the other. Let's just pray nothing like that ever happens to us. Andrew, clipping manager. Again, we learn a lot of things from this screen, mainly to do with that long-standing question, where is Ivan Carpenter? We can also make a guess that the back hall screen that was merged with the video frame and thus unreadable must have contained something that brought up Ivan. We go back to the commercial where the kid asks us what we're waiting for. At this point, the cartoon Little Red reverts to his calm viewing pose. The female narrator tells us to hurry up, that they wouldn't want, but the narration stutters and the entire screen goes dark and silent, almost as if the water slide in the video has led us into this darkness. The camera moves and we see faint silhouettes and lights in the dark. And if you mess around with the brightness and contrast, it's still hard to make out, but it appears that a pig is looming to the left which the camera turns to look at. The visual corruption error screen then reappears with its smaller text blurred and unreadable. During this screen the narration returns briefly with "Cruise this" and then stops again. We see the off-white loading screen again before it fades to black and the linking track plays, then more text on screen. Footage from the Party of 91, commonly labelled as Party 91st, show tape Little Red's Magic Show, location Little Red's Mega Mall, AR Little Rock location. We are then played a home video recording in which we see curtains open to show Little Red animatronic decked out in a tuxedo and mustache before there are loud gunfire sounds, flashes and screaming before the recording stops. Prior to the curtains opening, a thud can be heard in the background and the audio skips slightly. The linking track plays in the darkness and eventually gives way back to the off-white loading screen, which eventually shows us a menu, presumably the scene selection menu that we saw as an option earlier on. The fourth clip, showing the logo of Little Red's Marine Mania, is eventually chosen. The off-white loading screen comes back briefly before the next clip begins to play, Act 2 of Setting Sail, possibly another employee training program, as Setting Sail never displayed an Act 1 title card. Act 2 is titled Personal Space and Coexistence, and around the title are scattered discs and sleeves, all sporting the same man in the suit graphic we've seen before, with what appears to be the word "Welcome to the team" behind him. The segment then begins with another visual of the man in the suit, and the narrator is female again. During this part, another backhaul flashes on screen, at first a single clip of a shot of Pennywise, then the actual text. WTF, Andrew, hell no, you're ridiculous. I thought the new intern was bad, but damn, you are much worse. Anyways, I did some digging myself since you're not much help, and look what I found. It's not much, but it could be if we find out where he is. Also, I know I just told you about my email acting up, but now my editing software is too? What the hell? Kara, visual director. Where'd you find that? Andrew, clipping manager. On Rec Room? The original post was deleted, but someone took a screenshot and reposted it. Is there a problem? Kara, visual director. Oh, no, I was just wondering since I've never seen it before. I deleted my Rec Room account a while ago, so I totally forgot there could be information there. Anyways, I'm super invested in this story, so if you find any more stuff, send it my way. Maybe we could solve this ourselves, I don't know. Andrew, clipping manager. I doubt we could solve a year-old case, but we can try. Lamau, Kara, visual director. August, editor notes. The employee training tape resumes and informs the employees that they will be sleeping in cabins on board the ship which are located at the bottom of the boat. They will be sharing with the person they are also working with to better aid organisation and encourage teamwork and familiarity between workmates. We then get to see images of the cabins, slow pans with employee cabin in the top left corner, and the music also begins to slow down drastically. We first see Locke asleep on the top bunk of the bed, then a switch to the bathroom area with Little Red standing there. Suddenly the music drags to a halt and the scene cuts back to the scene selection menu, the right hand side stretched off screen. However, shortly before the scene changes, the cartoon Little Red goes from looking out to the distance to looking directly at the camera, something which has previously happened with the image of the older model Little Red animatronic Ivan showed off in his third message in Little Red's transfer. We briefly see the fourth option being highlighted again, then the off-white loading screen reappears. The linking track plays again and more text is displayed to us. Footage from a local Arkansas news broadcast covering the case of Party 91st. Words from former employees uncovered caused the once cold case to open again, AR Little Rock location. We then watch a news report on an incident that took place at a birthday party inside Little Red's mega mall. Apparently the birthday boy in question was a boy named Hayden Coons, and his party was attacked by 3 men who burst into the place wearing latex pig masks and shot the place up, killing 14 people and leaving another 11 severely injured. We see a photo of young Hayden, and behind him to his right we see something either through a door window or as a wall graphic. This image is much easier to make out when we see it in the trailer, and it clearly shows a shape wearing rounded ears, potentially bear ears. As we are shown one of these pig masks, the right eye splattered with blood, the screen glitches slightly and we see yet another secret YouTube link. Apparently staff were talking about someone inside being involved, as the doors were apparently locked and it is felt the shooters could only have gotten in with insider help. The news program fades out and the linking track plays before we see the off-white loading screen briefly, then are put back into the employee cabin tour where it left off. It starts from the beginning of the bathroom Little Red scene, but instead of the music and narration, the audio is a disconcerting piece of music. We see, in order, Little Red in the bathroom, Gally sporting a new hairstyle in the cabin, a pale yellow hair character in a laundry room, a turtle or tortoise stood in a locker room, and finally, a pig stood in front of a door marked Exit. The text of Employee Cabins changes to a 3-word phrase that starts with employee, but the rest of the words are harder to make out. At some point, narration starts again, but drastically slowed down.
This isn't the only sanctuary you'll have access to once entering the ship. This isn't the only sanctuary you'll have access to once entering the ship. Amongst the many employee cabins, there is a private bar, gym, and indoor swimming pool just for your leisure. Many lounges are also up to your disposal, so you will also be able to enjoy the ship life while getting...
During the turtle/tortoise part of this segment, another backhaul screen appears. Yo, it was fun hanging out with you last week. I see you've been busy here. I love your style, you're a real good artist. Andrew, clipping manager. Hey Andrew, you know we can use our emails, right? You helped fix mine, remember? Lol. Kara, visual director. Yeah, I know, but the emails are so heavily monitored. This is the only place we can talk about, you know who. Andrew, clipping manager. Oh, yeah right. Actually did some digging and found out about another incident that occurred involving Illusion Plus. About a girl named Tonya. She worked alongside Ivan. Should really look into the history of the place I work at, huh? Kara, visual director. Yeah, you'd be surprised. But actually, before we get back into the theorising, I wanted to ask you something. Andrew, clipping manager. Ask away. Kara, visual director. So, I know I should have brought this up to you days ago, but I actually still have access to the warehouse in Arkansas where Ivan worked at. And I was wondering if you wanted to go sneak in there with me, for mystery solving purposes. Andrew, clipping manager. Oh wow, this is out of the blue. I like it. Sure, let's go this weekend. Kara, visual director. Meet me at my place, 6 AM. Andrew, clipping manager. And again at the end of the big part. I'm so proud of this, we've got so much work done. Andrew, clipping manager. Yeah, I didn't expect you to be so passionate about all this though. I wish I was more peppered. I feel like I wasn't much of a help, lol. Kara, visual director. That's the thing about you, Kara. It's nice to just have someone who listens to me, lol. It's rare I ever get a chance to voice my opinion, let alone respond to others without being talked over, lol. You're so different and special, Andrew, clipping manager. Are you trying to ask me out or something, lol? Kara, visual director. I mean, something like that, Andrew, clipping manager. Oh, I was just kidding. Me and Ivy are, oh god, this is Kara, visual director. Kara, what are you saying? The way you look at me. There's something there, am I wrong? Andrew, clipping manager. Yes, 100% you are, lol. I like girls. I'm sorry for unintentionally leading you on, but please don't disregard my emotions like that. I'm fully devoted to Ivy, and don't plan on that being different. Kara, visual director. You're right, I'm in the wrong. I'm the dumbass, of course you wouldn't want to go out with me. Andrew, clipping manager. I'm sorry I'm not perfect enough for you. Andrew, clipping manager. The off-white loading screen returns for a few seconds. Then the employee instructional video resumes talking about where to find more information on cabin sizes and the like, seemingly ending this segment. The music trips over itself a little before fading out into the linking track, and the screen fades to darkness again, before another part of the news broadcast plays out with the employee and witness testimonies on the Party 91st incident. While the first two audio snippets are normal, the third, tied to a photo of a confident-looking woman, is distorted. Isolating this part, speeding it up by 3 times, and flipping it around, we hear what sounds like Dear Tonya, the name being the clearly heard part.
Tonya.
We then hear the beeps of an answer phone as the screen goes dark again, then fades in on a handheld camera facing a computer screen displaying a forum post. Here it's hard to read, but the image file was posted in a Dropbox link placed in the video description of Vessel of Notion's trailer. I'll go over it in detail later, but here it is on screen now in case you wish to pause the video and read it. We then hear a voice seemingly leaving a message on the answer phone talking about how he isn't responding to any form of communication. Apparently everyone has disappeared, and we hear the voice list off Ivan, JJ and Tonya, the person being left this message. The voice pleads to hear back to know if the others are okay because he's so tired. The clip ends with an answer phone voice telling the caller that they've reached someone and to leave a message, and the clip fades out back into silent white noise. The answer phone seems to have had the name of who they've reached blanked out of the audio though. Another piece of Illusion Plus promotional material then fades in with a peppy soundtrack and displaying first a signpost with Little Red's Marine Mania on it, then 3 cards with each of the 3 main characters. Little Red, Locks, and the galley with the new hairstyle. The narration from the employee training tape resumes, making it sound as if we've merely skipped a chunk between what we saw before and now. This part of the tape deals with giving a tour of the areas of the ship, splitting it into chunks to make the process easy to memorise. We see a few more slides of images, including one containing a folder with the word Atlas on it. There is a moment where things go dark, though the music continues, then some more narration, male this time, fades in, making it seem as if we join this section halfway through the narration. The narration talks about the water slides, then also says this area with the slides is home to Little Red, and we get a shot of a Little Red animatronic with pupil aside before things glitch out and there is a second of white noise and darkness before everything resumes. The narration continues talking about a new generation of animatronic, as we are shown a slightly fuzzy photo of 3 animatronics stood slightly bowed over, inactive in dim lighting, with a collide sign to their left. The voice goes on to describe the Little Red animatronic stand-up comedy as impeccable. It says that he is now capable of posing for photos and playing songs requested of him via the tablets embedded into the walls near the stage. Other things on the same deck are then listed: Little Red's Frozen Custard, Mania Lane's Bowling Alley, and the Pig Trio Climbing Centre. The video is then interrupted by something that appears to be a promotional bit for another attraction, Hansel and Gretel's splash pad with a dummy wearing waterproof gear. We then see a static ad screen for Little Red's Marine Mania with a life jacket, can of drink and a food tray on the right, and the text of Get the Bypass Now under the logo on the left. During this ad screen we get another back hall screen. Are you backing out on me, Kara? Andrew, clipping manager. No, just after the trip I need a break. From everything, I'm already paranoid. Kara, visual director. Link expired, link expired, link expired, link expired. Found something. Kara, visual director. Holy shit, Kara, 1 second. Andrew, clipping manager. So, you know the old cartoon Ivey's working on? Well, they're missing a few scenes and I think I found one of them a few days ago, here. Andrew, clipping manager. Okay, yeah, this is good. Things are going well. We just need to go to the warehouse, try to find anything from the preservation project, and we'll be done with this for a little. Lol. Kara, visual director. September, editor notes. We return to the ad for a bit, then suddenly the colours go blue, the music starts and we're thrown into a new clip. This one is a continuation of the tour, and the same narrator tells us about the deck being special for its theme and for being the location of the ship's main food buffets and restaurants. However, no backing music is playing, leaving only crackly white noise under the narration. We're then told that the kiddie area is where the fearful Lox the Golden Bear is located, but the narration glitches prior to saying Lox's name, potentially hiding another name, or perhaps that Lox is short for a much longer name. The narrator then prepares to tell us of other things located on this floor, but the video stops and the screen goes dark again. During this, a backhaul frame flashes up. "I thought you guys would be home by now." Ivey, resource manager. The rest of this blue screen is covered with a string of binary that I'll go into later during the theories part. The tour video resumes with a momentary glance at a visual that resembles window blinds as still lacking any background music, as we're told what other things can be found here. Lox and Jack's Jungle Gym, Fairy Tale Reading Showroom, which displays a poster for the Woodland Pals, and Forest Maze Wonders. The image chosen for the Forest Maze remains on screen for a while before the video cuts to another tour, being given by another narrator. We're shown some of the shopping areas on board, focusing on a jewellery cabinet, and we're told that Galley is placed in the Aqua showroom where announcements are made as the camera focuses on a display showing a cartoonish radio. As the camera turns back around to the shopping area, we catch a brief glimpse of a man in a suit, who looks startlingly like the man in a suit we keep seeing in graphic form. The visuals and audio glitch out and slow down before the video continues on, listing what else can be found on this floor. T&H Arcade, the poster for it sporting the hare and turtle/tortoise mascots we saw earlier, Gingerbread Dash Cars, the poster containing a gingerbread man, and Golden Egg Tag Arena, the poster having Galley upon it. The screen goes dark, and then we see a handheld video shot as someone with a flashlight enters into a cabin and shines their light around. Then the footage glitches and it almost looks as if someone jumped the person recording the footage. Over this we hear the male narrator advising new crew members to have their medical details ready when they board, but it glitches out as the footage skips. The linking track plays as more text appears on the screen. The final film. Multiple snippets of a man running throughout what was later discovered to be one of the many variations of Lox and Jack's Jungle Gym found on Ivan Carpenter's camera. Final scene revealing him enclosing himself within a blue locker. Footage not available and is in possession of Ivan's family. In its place though, an image of his final resting place. AR Illusion Plus Warehouse. We then see someone recording a handheld video as they move through darkened play equipment, various voice recordings that sound as if they've been left on an answer phone playing over the top. On-screen text tells us that because the dates and times of the calls match up with the last days Ivan was seen, they think this is the murderer calling Ivan before chasing him through the warehouse. The voice, who I'll refer to as the man on the phone, tells Ivan that some things should be kept secret, questions Ivan's interest in the cold case, tells the man that they're only looking out for the company's reputation in this matter, and wants to protect from Ivan's conspiracy theories. Then a recording plays of the man ranting that he pushes everyone to be better and this is Ivan's way of thanking him. The screen goes dark and more text appears on screen. We're praying for Ivan's family and hope these two events will find closure. The screen then fades in on a static picture of a blue locker, Little Red's face printed onto it. The employee tour suddenly cuts back in, ending the introduction and asking the employee to select the option they were hired for to get further information on it. Only the narration gets stuck and begins skipping before they get too far into saying that. We see a menu with 3 options on it, one option bearing the Woodland Pals logo, one I'm not sure about, and the third bearing an image that was in the trailer but will become more important later as we go over the hidden and secret stuff. We return to the off-white loading screen, and then to the original DVD menu before the video's credits begin playing and we learn the names of various characters who we've seen but not had named, and in some cases we've not heard. At least, not in this video. Only after the credits have passed, the video continues dark until we once again hear JJ's voice. He says that before they get into the more serious topic of the night, he wants to thank the sponsor of the show, Little Red's Marine Mania. He then proceeds to read off an ad blurb for them, before going into his serious topic of a local millionaire planning to set up a new warehouse for his corporation, eating into space planned for new residential. An anonymous insider has apparently passed on details of lobbying money being poured into an upcoming local election by the same corporation. We're told that we'll be kept up to date with further development, and then JJ signs off confirming that this is indeed JJ we're listening to, and the video ends with a black screen, white noise, and links to both the soundtrack of Transfer 2 and another one of the hidden videos. As I pointed out when we were talking about the actual Vessel of an Ocean video, there were a few hidden video links hidden in it. There's also one linked at the end of Vessel of an Ocean, But that's not all of the hidden video content that can be found. So to make it easier, I'm going to go through these videos one by one and give you where each one can be found so you can find them yourselves. We'll start with the most easily accessible one of the hidden videos, as it's linked right there in the main video's end card, and so will probably be the first one most people view directly after finishing it. Dear Mary is similar visually to the video previously named Corruption Tape, which has now been renamed to Home Video. It again shows footage of what appears to be the exact same cabin in a snowy backdrop, with the image glitching in and out of sight. However, this time the footage of the cabin seems to be upside down. Over the footage is a series of what sounds like voice recordings left on an answer phone, and it seems by the same person who left the call to Ivan we hear at the end of Vessel of Notion. In it, we hear the man on the phone talking about an Elizabeth Mary they know, who works as an engineer but apparently has something wrong with them. We're told that she has an off-putting demeanour but handles herself with control despite this, and we get the impression that the voice on the phone is interested in her, maybe even a little attracted to her. Mary apparently began staying later after work, spilling her thoughts on how stressed she was having to look after her young brother. The man on the phone ends the video by saying that he wanted to help her with that problem. In the description is a message encoded in Morse. Here's what it says when translated. Separating it out into individual lines, the conversation seems to go. So how was it, Little Reds? How was it before, work was hell? How come? No family, all me. Oh, you're a great sister, I feel like you don't get that much credit. I try, it was hard, manipulation, hurt us. Thank you, again, for trying to help. But why be so scary about it? How else would I get your attention, Ivan? It's Ivan, K. This video is apparently part of a service that was once offered to have parents order special custom phone messages for children's birthdays of their favourite Woodland Pals character who'd wish them a happy birthday. On screen we have a very simplistic depiction of Hare jumping around a hilled field on and off screen, saying a bunch of very disconnected quotes. He says a few things that sound as if Hopper is addressing Little Red, potentially taken from a cartoon. However, other things seem more disconnected, and halfway through a line, the cartoon vanishes and we see a brief video of a forested area as another voice speaks the rest of the line. It's just how it goes around here. I'd be careful though.
You don't want to end up like that Ivey guy, right? I'm just kidding. I probably shouldn't have said that.
Hopper then returns, and his final line, delivered from off screen, is one that talks about the pigs and how they don't know what's coming for them. The video continues on for a little longer, and right towards the end, Hopper hops back into view, but his face has been replaced by shadow. It's interesting to note that the forest we see briefly resembles the same shot of the forest we caught a brief glimpse of in the formerly named Corruption Tape, now named Home Video. In the description, after the quote from the phone message service, we have another Morse code message. I remember, I sent Tonya one of these, she always loved Galley. This video focuses on another character that's been confirmed to be Humming Humpty, a name of a character we'd seen credited in Vessel of Notion's credit, yet not actually seen or heard speak. Humming Humpty resembles the stereotypical Humpty Dumpty depiction, and appears here holding the spoon with a face. Again, the character repeats a lot of lines that seem disconnected and random, some again addressing Little Red and sounding as if they come from a cartoon. He does make reference to being part of the Woodland Pals though, which helps place where he might come from specifically. His first line also sounds like something promotional for Marine Mania. However, it's the final lines that seem most interesting, as Humpty seems to be talking about how some doors don't lock and how anyone could come through, but then suddenly seems to be addressing someone specifically as he realises they didn't come in the way he'd expected.
The doors don't lock in there, so anyone can walk in at any time and just... Wait a minute, that's not how he got here, isn't it? No, you left a different way. Even more brutal than the others.
He then goes on to talk about not trusting any pig or farm animal. In the description of the video, the uploader or someone talks about how much they disliked this character, calling them a walking liver failure. There is also another Morse code message that when translated reads... Again, when we separate it out into an actual conversation... Where's the boy? Cartoon. You left him there? Safe for him. I've seen his art, he's so good. I hope he likes it there. Close to home. I want to go home too. I'm so sorry, Mary. Try harder. This is one of the 3 videos that are titled as Missing Scenes from the Woodland Pals cartoon, and one of 4 that exist to be found. The video is a short clip from the cartoon as the big character faces away from the camera towards the wall of a house with pictures of locks and galley hung upon it. The subtitles say, "Don't be scared, you lousy bear, put it in," which gives us the impression that the pig is currently bullying or trying to intimidate Locks into doing something he doesn't want to do. However, the most interesting part of the short clip is that about halfway through the image glitches up for a few frames, and one of those frames displays a similar wall picture of Red, wearing a party hat we've previously seen being worn by the boy in the upside down image. In the description is a message, this time in binary. When translated it reads, "I think Mary just wants to help. All those times she showed up, it was to protect me, to protect others. No wonder the tape was so corrupted, she was trying to warn me. I wish I can take her home, to that yellow house she talks about. Home video is the safest place for us, and we need to all get there. Good things take time though." This is numerically the second clip of the missing scenes linked in Vessel of Notion's on-screen links, yet the first one we get a link for. In the clip we see a hand in what appears to be a suit sleeve with a white rim around the cuff, or potentially a white shirt underneath. It holds out a brown paper bag and the subtitles underneath read, "It's done." Plainly visible on the paper bag are some marking, which once traced over seem to mostly just be crinkles of the bag, but towards the top seems to be a doodle of a bear's head, and this one bit here which seems to resemble the letter N capitalised. With the markings to its left it almost seems like somebody wrote Ivan on this bag, but I can't be certain of that. The audio consists of just one bit of very slowed down audio, which when is sped up, I've got nothing. At 10 times the speed it does sound like a female's voice, but since the original video is just 3 seconds long, the sped up clip lasts half a second if that, and so there's not much to hear as a result. In the description is another binary message, which when it is translated, "It hurts so bad. Eric has never been superstitious, but I hope he will at least try to understand what's happening. It would be cool if multiple people helped out. Like he gathers a fan base or something, I don't know. I miss so much. I miss listening to podcasts and talking shit with JJ in the lunchroom. I miss the way Tonya would braid my hair during the lunch break, and that weird smell that came from the arcade machine. God, it's so cold." Final scene that can be accessed through a link in the Vessel of Notion video itself. This is numerically the third missing scene of the Woodland Pals cartoon. And as a heads up, this one is actually visually horrifying, so please skip ahead to here if you'd rather not see it, or, I don't know, switch tabs or something. This clip is again another fairly short one, but it is the longest of the 3 from the on-screen links. It consists of a still frame of Little Red, but his face is covered in what appears to be old blood and gore, his mouth showing some realistic teeth, and his eyes have been replaced with realistic human eyes. These eyes are the only moving part of the video, as they slowly look towards the camera in a very creepy parallel to the 2 times in the past we've seen a cartoon Little Red look at the camera before the screen cuts away. Audio-wise, all we can hear is what sounds like deep, slow breathing, as if someone is finding it hard to actually take in and expel the air. However, since the sound slowed down, I sped it up, only to find that it sounds like help over and over. But it still sounded reversed, so I reversed it and... which sounds like somebody saying poison over and over. Again, there is a message in the description in binary, and this time translating it gives us a conversation. "I thought I'd never see you again. I wanted to apologise. I want to help you, do the things you do and help others. No, Ivan. Mary, please, let me help you. I can help us. Help you and Hayden get to the home video, just like how we got here. Not easy. I know it's not easy, that's why I'm doing it, so you don't have to. Naive. Well, if you won't take me with you, I want to be somewhere else. I'm in pain here. Please tell me there's a place better than this. Introduction tape. Eric is there." The main visual of this video is a pixelated game sprite of Locke standing in a field with hills behind him. It begins to move around the screen as distorted glitchy music and sounds play. Then he begins to move around more frantically as the colours of the screen flash yellow and red, light and dark, and the distorted glitchy sound makes way for a slowed down cry. Speeding the video audio up, we get this. know now that the end of the video is the sound of children, but also that hidden amongst the glitchy distorted track is a voice saying something. Unfortunately, as with minor prior instances, it's impossible to make out what the voice might be saying. In the video description is a Morse code message that when translated reads, "Where to now, Mary? We wait. For what? Mary, please stop doing that. Mary? Hello? Mary, please stop leaving me. It hurts here. I can't keep living here. Mary! 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 Mary!" This video is a lot longer than most of the hidden videos, and it's also the hardest to find, needing a few more steps to reach. Because it requires a password and the title is hard to say, I'm going to be calling it the password video from now on. The audio of this video seems to tell us a story that is similar to that of Little Red Riding Hood, the character we know Little Red was apparently named for, but with Red playing the part of the titular character instead. Little Red asks his mother to go visit his sister, but is tricked by a pig who plays the role the wolf played in the original tale, who pretends to be Red's sister, seemingly to get some of the porridge. Halfway through the video though, this audio is overlapped and drowned out by what sounds like a guided narration for working on animatronics. We know that the sister mentions something about, assumably, Red missing a party, and that the pig uses thoughts and fireworks to distract the sister before donning what is described as a uniform and adding a nicely stitched employee hat. Most of this video plays out with 2 different videos at a time overlapping with each other, switching rapidly between the 2. The one that saves for most of the video is that of what looks like a short animation reel of the cartoon Little Red we saw back in Vessel of Notion in the bottom left watching the Marine Mania advert with us. The reel, which is played a few times through, shows us Little Red walking through a forest, switching between the calm pose and the more dynamic mouth open pose we've already seen. The second clip with which the reel is overlaid changes though. The first clip is of the pixelated game sprite of Lox again, with the board to his right spelling out the story of the game and what is happening in this scene. We read that Lox is awoken from a nap to find that his porridge is gone from the picnic basket he has with him. The text then changes to give us a quest, in which Lox asks us to find something. The text underneath this question tells us that Lox should have asked us to find his porridge for him, but the text instead reads, "Can you help me find Eric?" The second clip that gets overlaid is a close-up of a very chibi or simplistic style cartoon of Little Red's head with a single pointed tooth. It almost seems to resemble a mascot style version of Little Red that someone would use for a child-aimed product. Beyond that, I'm not sure. The third clip seems to be a handheld video that someone has shot of them opening up something full of mechanics inside. The camera pans up slightly for a few seconds and we see something shaped like a chunky vertical column covered in faux fur. The camera then goes back into the mechanics and zooms in on a particular part, which looks like an electrical chip or else something with some switches. This footage goes dark for a bit, then cuts back in and we see a hand depressing some of the switches before withdrawing. This is the point that the story narration is drowned out by the instructional video. There is then no secondary clip for a little bit, but before the fourth one fades in, something appears briefly in the secondary space, something that resembles a pair of very sad eyes. The fourth clip then appears with yet another rendition of what appears to be Little Red. His head and eyes are giant, his body small, and he wears his hat. He stands in a room with a pale blue wall with detailing and a whited out area to his left that almost looks like light pouring in from a doorway. This Little Red looks a lot like a child's drawing, coloured in with felt tip pens and much more developed than the doodles we've seen before now. It's also possible that it might come from a game. The final secondary clip is of a black and white image. On the left is a Little Red animatronic and on the right is a boy wearing a party hat, but red blood pours from his eyes, nose and mouth. Eventually the video shows just this last clip fully, and red text is placed on top of the screen above the red animatronic. He took my box and put his toys in. I don't like these toys. In the description is one last Morse code message, which when translated reads, "I'm so sorry Hayden, I'm so starter. Just keep drawing baby, we'll be out one day." As well as the hidden videos, there are also a few Dropboxes full of images and other short video clips that have been hidden and discovered. Again, as with the hidden videos, I'll talk about each in turn and say where each was hidden. This was the first one I found myself, as it was made available about a week prior to Vessel of Notion's release. I showed you this one earlier, but now let's go over it properly. This is a forum post from a site known as Rec Room, which seems to be a place to talk about and discuss mysteries and conspiracies. And while we see it on a screen during the section where someone is trying to call Tonya, it's also alluded to during the back call screen that is marked at the bottom as August editor notes. This is a post that was made in 2012, probably in April, as the series has been stated to have locations across the US and has been set there so far. In it, a Jordan Joham talks about wanting to unburden himself of the truth of his situation and reveals that he worked with Ivan. He states that while Ivan worked on the transfer and restoration of old tapes, Jordan was assigned to the Preservative Project and came across a box of documents in an old Little Red location that he shared with Ivan. Included in that box was a newspaper clipping about a freak accident that involved a young boy and an adult woman. Jordan now states that he regrets ever sharing this with Ivan, who is apparently very into true crime and theories. We can guess that this is because of Ivan's disappearance and murder. This forum post tells us a little bit more about Illusion Plus's works and suggests that they had entire teams dedicated to preserving as much of Little Red's past as they could. We also learn a little bit about one of the original 4 fact hunters from the first video. Jordan Joham is very likely to be JJ, the one who shared the old files that Ivan talked about in his first message to Eric in the first Little Red's transfer. However, this image is just that, an image of a forum post, and we can't read anything more that JJ posted within, because as Cora says in the back hall screen that talks about this post, it was taken down for some reason. Why? This Dropbox is full of pages of a review of a game from 2002 about an Illusion Plus release known as the Little Red's Acre Ridge game. The first thing to note is that the image of Locks we see here relates back to the pixelated Locks image we saw in both Honey Bear and to the first secondary clip for the password video. The pages are also out of order. Putting them in order, we see the author of the article talking about how they grew up with the Little Reds franchise and all of the spin-offs, and then gets talking about this particular game. They apparently loved to play it as it was a cheap game until they encountered some bugs which made them stop, and is also noted as probably being the reason why the game was discontinued quickly. The author then forgot about the game until recently when they tried playing again, only to be met with a game over screen that apparently lingered for long enough to make them uncomfortable. Upon rebooting their machine, they were finally able to get in, but got what they describe as an extremely vulgar image upon clicking their save file. They then talk about how Locks' quest in the game was the only one they could get to work, one that required you to find and give Locks some porridge. We also get to see the screen that starts the mission, which again is one of the images from Password Video's first secondary clip. We seem to suggest that it came from this Acre Ridge game. Apparently even this quest was laggy, and upon being given the porridge, Locks would just stand there apparently eating the porridge with some eating sounds that the author calls atrocious. They then talk about how eventually a boss fight graphic would rise into view behind Locks, and the fight would trigger but not the controls to be able to fight back. Eventually the author lost the fight and was greeted with one of 3 death screens. Zooming into the article, we see 4 kids in the foreground, one with his head seemingly misplaced off to the side and duplicated, and in the background something that looks like a massive animatronic slumped over to the side, similar to the one shown during the last bits of Count Your Years. In the top left hand side of the screen are the words, "Blew their brains out, self-distraction." The final thing in this Dropbox folder is a short video of what happens when Locks is given the porridge, and as described in the article, we have Locks stand there as a short loop of music is repeated over and over and eating sounds play. Eventually the music stops though, and the eating sounds seem more crunchy as the boss graphic, a giant pig with a bloodshot eye and what looks like a spoon to his left, rises into view behind Locks. This Dropbox seems to be connected to this blog owl page, which hosts a few of the same things we see here. However, the uploader, Oscar Taylor, has an icon which shows what appears to be box art for a Little Red game, maybe Acre Ridge, although graphically it looks very different to the lock screen we've seen from that game. This game's Little Red though looks very similar to something we saw in the password video, so this must be another game asset, maybe even a hint at another game we'll see in the 3rd transfer tape. This Dropbox contains only a single video, and this is the 4th and final Woodland Pals missing scene we can find, the only one that isn't linked through the hidden on-screen links but instead through a back hall screen. The video consists of just the pig character standing in the house looking forward and merely saying "sandwich" before looking away again. While on its own it's very out of context, the back hall screen Andrew linked it on seems to suggest that he and Cora at least consider it to be an important part of their investigation. They just needed to find something at the warehouse from the preservation project, but what? While the prior Dropbox contained only a single missing scene, this seems to be the beginning of the cartoon that Ivey was working on. The cartoon opens with the sound of a ringing phone and a camera that slowly moves right as the words "presented by Barley Tales" appears, then created and directed by Ali Burrow and Owen Louise. We focus on the phone that's ringing and the title is placed over it, Woodland Pals, with smaller text underneath that reads A Barley Tale Production, with some more even smaller text underneath which is unreadable. We see Red holding up the phone, talking on it, assuring the other party that they'll be there. During this scene it glitches slightly, and as the picture moves downwards we see a message in the glitched out dark patch. Tango Alpha Kilo Echo Mike Echo Hotel Oscar Mike Echo Echo Romeo India Charlie, or Take me home, Eric. We then see from behind Red as he tells both Locks, who is wrapped in a blanket, and Gally with her new hairstyle design, that they've just been invited to a party. Gally talks about how they need to bring something, and Locks sleepily reminds the others that he's scared of parties. Dancing makes him nervous, and he finds the confetti overwhelming. Or at least, that's what we can guess, he says, as the audio cuts out partway through the final word. The audio comes back and we hear Gally talking about presents and asks something that is cut off as the audio once again goes, but a little glitching of it before it goes makes it sound like he's asking either what size or side something is. During this moment, the screen is focusing in on a picture on the wall. The glare right in the centre makes it hard to determine who this character is, but they have rounded ears and seem to be a female character. As confirmed by Quant in the Discord, this is actually a reference to Jumbo's Wonderland, which is another series that is currently going on. What relevance this has to the Little Red's lore though, I don't know. Probably none, but we don't know. We finish with the camera focusing behind Locks, who wonders what to bring, considers his porridge and remembers he has to eat that. We see a number of empty porridge bowls behind him, a few shifting about as he wonders. During this clip we also get to see some names on screen, seemingly voice actors or maybe people who've worked on the show. Howland Thompson, Caitlin Fritz, Daniel Copper, Luke Vicker. The cartoon is interesting because it gives us the narrative of the cartoon episode that the missing scenes apparently seem to have come from. The transition between the scene where Red addresses the other two and Gally's scene is also a bit odd as a dark patch sweeps across the screen, and this sort of thing doesn't happen for any of the other transitions. It also literally blacks out the screen completely as one of the supposed voice actor credits appears on screen, one that is still there after the scene is transitioned. I've played around with brightening the patch and there might be something there? I don't know, it's a weird one and potentially nothing. I'm just including it for the sake of completion. The files in this Dropbox are 4 doodles, merely sketches of lines. The first seems to be Little Red, very early on in the sketching process. The second looks like Humming Humpty, sat upon a wall as his namesake would do. The third shows a person stood behind a pink counter with some double doors behind them. The camera on the desk said they seem to be pressing the record button on because of the rec written near their hand. The fourth is the same as the third, but the entire middle of the sketch is covered in red. Children's doodles have already played a part in this story, and we know from the message hidden in the description of Hard Boiled that someone is an artist. Someone the people having the conversation refer to as the boy. The message hidden in the description of the password video also asks someone to keep drawing, someone named Hayden. Putting the clues together, it's likely that the boy is Hayden Coons. Therefore, it's possible that these are some of his drawings, and whoever the person in the third image is was also a victim of some terrible tragedy. Apparently there have been a bunch more poems hidden around to find, with one not really being a poem but a step on the way to accessing a hidden video. I include it here because otherwise there's nowhere else for it to go. Like with Merry Birthday, I think these poems serve to give us a better insight into the mental states and thoughts of certain players and the events unfolding. The link to this poem was posted shortly after Vessel of Notion's release, as more content was discovered and more added to be found. It reads, Plague. I was never good at keeping my mouth shut, always talking. Was it worth it? Did you find everything you needed? Do you understand now? None of you know a fucking thing. I'm just pushing it, waiting for my time. Sunday beatings taught me right. Dispose of your portrait. I've taken every step to ensure my security. I know now how much power I hold. I know how it feels to be the wolf. An alpha? No, that's silly. A god. You didn't solve this mystery, I fed it to you. The real thing you should be looking for is a wolf in the flesh of a pig. The non-fiction being told by fairies. And honestly, some of those lines make me feel personally attacked. This poem is found linked in the description of Count Your Years, having been added there more recently as Aquanta added new things to find in the wake of Vessel of Notion's debut. It reads, Creation. After the puppet show and its Sunday broadcast, success and desperation followed. Was it the pain he wanted more of? Or did the money suffice that urge? The latter, a change of heart, a change of bleeding mentality retained dark creativity. Could he play the part in the deception of the public? He already has. A change of poisoned lungs and constant control of those he surrounded himself with. He was made. Finally, in his full form, he was made. Attention strayed away from the portal pig to instead make way for the horrid wolf. I hate that damn dog and the songs he taunted me with. Because of where the link is, I'm wondering if maybe the puppet show referred to is the same cartoon that Count Your Years belongs to. Or it could refer to the cartoon that Ivey was working on, called A Puppet Show by Andrew in one of the back hall screens. Under this poem is an image of a little red animatronic with naked body, one that we saw in the opening of Vessel of Notion. This poem is marked as being by the uploader's father in the video description of Vessel of Notion, so I feel this is something that should be kept in mind while looking at this particular poem. Homely. The base of which this home was constructed is inconsistent and foul. The brains of the mother and father held dark corridors of evil fetishes, discreet thoughts for only the strongest mentalities, a twisted masochist, one in a pair. The joy they felt when the day's brutal beating was upon them, grabbing at the leash of the little dog and hanging it onto the iron bed frame. But the little dog wasn't enough for them, no. For his paws stained a velvet red, and his fur stiff and littered with stains. A child was embraced by them from beyond the golden gates, birth to the child. You strayed quite far this time, didn't you? Mother concluded. But I am home now. Underneath this one is another picture, also taken from Vessel of Notion's opening. This time, the cabin where the narration suggests that a lot of the stashes of computer discs, video cassettes and documentations were found. This poem reads, his tone was nice. Father owned the throne, so his tone was nice. I raised him on my own, so his home was nice. That home wasn't so homely once I plagued it right. With pills and bills and needles, so I plagued it right. The boxes where I stealed them, so I plagued it right. He was always so fond of your creation. Talking to your father, his creation. Doggy on a collar, his creation, that you hated. Fireworks. You said you'd love to take me to the fireworks. Chatted me with wisdom, or in other words, help me plague my system so it's hard to work. Hardly worked. I thought you loved me. For once in my life I let you touch me. You ruined that night, that wasn't homely. A gun to my right, 'cause now I'm lonely. You don't love me. No one loves me. However, this poem is different to the others in that it is black text on a white background instead of the black background with white text, and highlighting the document reveals some extra lines separate from the rest of the poem. Is it really worth it? I told you I was stressed. Did he deserve it? Said it was for the best. I pulled the curtains. This one was one of the best hidden in my opinion, as really the videos would be obvious places to check, but community post comments are a bit less so. Anyway, this poem reads, tone. They treated me no different from the last, paid me the same way as they do before, call after call about the parties. I needed control, I needed to go back to my roots. She was young and witty, smart and fashionable. Lies, lies. Broken and discarded from her family, just like him, just like us, he liked. She was kind to him, no, she was distant. She let me call her Mary. Mary, the name of that damned dog. I took your place, Mary, I took your place. Just like him, just like us. It was him and Mary until he came. He had to go. With her vulnerability after months of Sunday beatings, she was perfect and poisoned. Just like him, just like us. Under this poem is the last of the 3 images we saw in Vessel of Notion's opening, the photo of the man in a suit looking to the left. Finally, we have this document which, as I mentioned before, is not a poem, but I needed to include it somewhere. This document shares the same name as 2 of the characters we know, Hayden Burrow, the creative Little Red, and Hayden Coons, the child whose birthday party was the source of the Party 91st incidents. Contained within it is a link to the password video. Getting here is one of the steps needed to access that video, so I'll tell you that you need to check the link in Galley Broad the Way, then request access from the document's owner. To do that, you need the password. The password can be found by examining the text of the Acre Bridge review and looking for grammatical errors and inconsistencies, or, and if you want to figure it out for yourself, please skip to the theory section now. The password is the name of the password video. There was a marks Little Red's second transfer installment, and while I can't say for certain I know what's going on, there are certain patterns emerging and certain things that cause me to wonder and ask questions. First, let's discuss the four we met previously in the first transfer video. From the decoded message of WLP2, it's now clear that my theory about JJ and Tonya not working in the same location as Ivan was incorrect. The person in the message, who seems to be Ivan, talks about hanging out with them at lunch. We now know for certain that the answer to "where is Ivan Carpenter" is that he's probably dead, seemingly chased and killed by someone trying to prevent him from looking further into the mystery of the incident, which we now know is probably the Party 91st incident. Although rumours about how he died seems to mean that no one actually knows how he was killed, what seems to be sure is that he was found in a locker, only the locker can't be found. However, Night Dog in my comments suggested something that I think is true. We've seen the locker, many times by now. The close view we get is the cutting clip during Tell-A-Hare. I think this item in the forest might be the missing locker. We see footage taken from Ivan's camera of his being chased through a jungle gym, but the end part is missing and we're told it's with Ivan's family. I wonder though if maybe there's something on that clip that could give us more clues. Another question however is, why was Ivan at the warehouse in the first place? Ivan was an audio engineer, someone who worked on restoring, transferring and updating the old tapes Illusion Plus gave him. I think he was there for much the same reason Kara and Andrew later sneak in. He was looking for more evidence or clues about an incident. JJ had already found some stuff, shown it to Ivan. It's very likely that the old files we saw him refer to at the time could have been stored at the warehouse nearest to the place the Party 91st incident took place in, which might even have been the same old location that JJ had been sent to. Or it could be possible that anything the company didn't want to be seen related to this incident could also be stored there. Since the last time we know Ivan was alive for certain was shortly before New Year's 2011, but JJ talks about Ivan as if the man is dead in his forum post of 2012, it's very likely that Ivan died sometime within the year of 2011. That is, if he's dead for sure. Throughout the video it's always mentioned that he disappeared and only Andrew seems sure that he is dead. But given how iffy he seems on the details and that no one ever found the locker Ivan died in, I have to ask how in that case people found the body of a man in a locker that supposedly vanished. Speaking of JJ, we get to learn an awful lot about the man in the content we've been offered this time. The guy runs what seems to be a podcast talking about local issues and interesting mysteries, and worked not on restoring tapes as Ivan did, but instead was sent to old locations to salvage older technology. We know now that it was him showing the documents he found to Ivan that kick-started off the efforts of the 4 Illusion Plus workers from the first video. And from his forum post of 2012, it's clear he feels responsible for what happened to him. We know from the August editor notes back haul that at some point the message was deleted, although whether it was by the admins of Rec Room or JJ himself is unclear. What is clear is that JJ has become unreachable by this point, although we know he's probably still alive given that he talks about how his podcast is being sponsored by Little Red's Marine Mania, a deal that wasn't announced publicly until sometime around mid-2013. It's possible that Marine Mania was being promoted before this though, so it's not definitive proof. It's worth noting that JJ doesn't talk about any big mysteries in the sections we hear of the Informational Inquisitor, so possibly what happened to Ivan has scared him into backing off from the mystery and maybe the others of the group. He might even have been intimidated into remaining silent. Tonya's part in this is short. We know that she is also dead, found dead on the floor of the bedroom of her house. The killing has been connected to Ivan's disappearance. The video we get that was supposedly found outside her house is marked as being from the AR Little Rock location, which seems odd, but I take it to mean that it's either connected to what happened there, or that possibly that location is the one Tonya was assigned to. While it is the older location that the Party 91st incident occurred at, there's nothing to actually suggest that it's not still an operational establishment in the present day. Tonya's role in the group could easily have been as their inside person at the very location where the incident occurred. However, it seems that she was shot, and I wonder if the clip we see after the shooting from seemingly outside her house has something to do with it. It could be that she was investigating the galley game, but when it got weird and a message appeared in the mirror, Tonya thought herself in too deep or was creeped out. We know that there was at least one shot before she died, and she was weeping terrified, gasping sobs at the time. It could be that she shot the screen the game was on and then herself afterwards, or else she's another victim of whoever is trying to keep this all hushed up. But we don't yet have any definitive evidence of Tonya having an involvement with anyone else outside of the group of 4 from the first transfer video. We also learn that she was apparently sent one of the Barleytail birthday phone messages by someone, possibly Ivan, as she loved Gelly. I also wonder if the confident woman from the news report, the one whose audio was replaced by the distorted bot, might be Tonya, and therefore I have to wonder if her testimony holds some important detail for the story. Finally, we move on to the last of the four, Eric. Eric seems to be the last survivor of the four, as we see what appears to be footage he's shot of him trying desperately to reach the other three. On screen is the forum post, and therefore it's a possibility that the person who screencapped and reposted the image of the post was Eric himself. However, in the voice messages he leaves during this clip, it's clear that he's freaked out by the others vanishing or not responding. He seems to be trying Tonya as his last resort. This seems to suggest to me that Tonya was the last one to disappear out of the three others, and that would mean that the person Eric can't get to respond to messages is JJ, if indeed Ivan is thought to be dead. Messages we decode from hidden content also helps us confirm a few things related to Eric. The man is not superstitious, and some of his freaked out state is probably down to the spooky stuff he's seeing while investigating old Illusion Plus media, and that someone who is stuck seemingly within the videos is looking for Eric, that Eric is at introduction tape and can take this person home. I also think that there's a possibility that the message we see near the start of Vessel of Notion, the one saying that they need all of us help on this, might be Eric. After all, the decoded message on WLP2 also talks about hoping that Eric gets together a group of people to help him out with this, and maybe Eric has. I think now that given the decoded messages we can take from the tapes, there must be some sort of consciousness trapped within the videos. We can also confirm that there are multiple people trapped within, and at least two of them seem to be Mary and Ivan, with the third being the boy, who is probably Hayden Coombs. It's possible there are other people trapped within the videos too, but these are the ones we know to be there given the conversations we see. From these conversations we see, I think we can make a guess at who was communicating with Ivan on the original transfer tape, as the conversation we decode from Dear Mary talks about how they were scary about communicating to get Ivan's attention. The conversation also makes mention of this person being a sister and how they had no family, which needs to correlate with the information we hear about Elizabeth Mary in the very video this hidden conversation is under. Therefore, Mary is very likely to have been the person who, as Ivan said in his first message to Eric in the first transfer tape, wants all to see. It's even outright stated in WLP1 that Mary is behind why the tape was so corrupted. I also think, given the information we get about how Hayden likes to make art, Tonya's tape that was filled with the weird child drawings might have been hurting Hayden at that point. It does seem like now the old tapes are being transferred onto the computer and shared via networks in the cloud, that these ghosts in the machine are now able to travel between different videos, yet they seem to be trying to reach one in particular, home. If you recall, home video is what the formerly named corruption tape was named, and so it seems that they're trying to get to that video in particular, but why, other than it being safe, is never stated. What makes the home video so different to the rest of the tapes? We also know that Hayden was left in Cartoon to keep him safe, and that Cartoon is close to home. Given the messages in the description, I think the Cartoon video is the password video, which, after all, has a cartoon animation reel as its primary clip and has a description that talks to Hayden specifically. As we read the messages though, it does seem that Mary, while originally thankful to Ivan for trying to help them, loses her patience and eventually leaves Ivan behind in her attempts to reach home video. Ivan is seemingly in pain, and when Mary comes back in WLP3, he requests to go somewhere else if she's just going to leave him behind, as it hurts too much to be there specifically. From this, I'm guessing that the one with the ability to travel between tapes is Mary, and Ivan cannot do this as easily. He can, however, do as she once did and try and reach out through the videotapes to ask the watcher, "Can you help me find Eric?" and Eric himself to take him home. The central incident that was the reason Ivan got involved in the first place, we learn quite a bit about the Party 91st incident itself and potentially the motivations behind it. The most basic thing we learn is, of course, its name. The show clip we see of a mustached Red performing is said to be from a Party of 91, which is where it gets its name from, potentially from a police case file, and suggests that the party occurred in the year of 1991. This would mean that the incident took place nearly 20 years before JJ stumbled upon the files during his job and showed them to Ivan in 2010. The incident also occurred at Little Red's Mega Mall in Arkansas, which does mean I was right about Little Red's potentially owning actual malls. The news report on Party 91st informs us that 14 people died as a result of the incident, and the Rec Room forum post tells us that there was a freak accident involving a young boy and an adult woman who worked at the establishment, which could be a reference to Party 91st. However, given that we know that the Party 91st incident involved 3 men in pig masks storming the place and shooting it up, I'm not actually sure if the Rec Room post is talking about Party 91st, as such a shooting could hardly be described as a freak accident by any stretch. I also think that we get a roundabout hint about how this incident occurred that allows us to paint a rough narrative of what the story behind it is. During the Password video's reimagined version of the Little Red Riding Hood tale, it specifically mentioned that the pig searched for a uniform to wear and a nicely stitched employee hat. We also know from the news report that the doors had apparently been thought locked that day and that only an internal source could have opened them. Humming Humpty also talks about doors but says that they don't lock and that anyone could walk in. This makes me wonder if maybe someone stuck into Little Red's Mega Mall and disguised themselves as a worker to be able to let in the shooters later. The news report doesn't actually say which doors were supposedly locked, so maybe this person was able to walk into the open front doors as a customer, sneak to the back and take a uniform and a worker key, then open some back doors that only a staff member should have been able to reach, maybe some employee travel tunnels as were mentioned during the first transfer tape. As for the motive, it's a bit of a stretch, but we first need to talk about another key player in this entire thing, Mary. Mary is someone we'd previously gotten an image of through Count Your Years poem. It had made them seem unpleasant and cruel in some ways, but during the course of Vessel of Notion, we don't get the opinion that this is the full story. Dear Mary is probably the best source to hit up first as the man on the phone talks about her. We learn that Mary seems to be her middle name, that she works as an engineer and looks after her younger brother. We also learn that there's something eye-catching about Mary, the way she handles herself and her control despite her off-putting demeanour, which correlates with the Mary birthday poem we've previously read. It seems that despite this though, the man on the phone was rather taken with her. Whether as a friend or if they were attracted to her, I don't know for certain. The next place we can go to get some ideas about Mary are the messages from the video descriptions. The way she talks, Mary sounds almost tired. She seems able to move between the videos, but can't seem to find her way home and needs Ivan's help to do so. She also seems to be taking care of the boy, Hayden, and leaves him in the cartoon video to be safe while she and Ivan work. However, she's also sort of impatient and at one point seems to be unfairly blaming Ivan for them not reaching home, and in Hard Boiled, when Ivan tells her that he's sorry that he's not being able to get them home, she only replies, "Try harder." However, Mary doesn't seem to be a bad person, merely a broken one. A lot of the newer poems talk about beatings and contain a lot of anger in their lines. I think there's an argument to be made that Mary, who says that she's been left alone to raise her brother, might have had a bad childhood. Or else something happened to the parents that left Mary on her own to raise him and she was left emotionally damaged by this. There's even a possibility that something happened when she was younger to her mother, an event that is alluded to in Mary Birthday which could mean she felt responsible for what happened. Tone, especially, seems to hint at this as she is mentioned by name within it, and the poem contains lines such as broken and discarded from her family, just like him, and with her vulnerability, after months of Sunday beatings she was perfect and poisoned, just like him. And it's the poems that I think best support my theory on the shooting. As I said earlier, I think the poems give us insights into the mental state of some of the people in this story, and I specifically think they're the words and thoughts of the man on the phone. The reason I think this is that all the poems have some common themes running through them: Sunday beatings, abuse, wolves, dogs and pigs. They talk about parents and fathers who are cruel, not loving at all. We know from Dear Mary that the woman had opened up to the man on the phone about her home life and looking after her younger brother. It's possible that she also talked about aspects of her past as she grew to trust them. The man on the phone, from what we've seen or at least heard of him, seems to have a temper on them and also to consider themselves a burden to the people around them, both of which are signs of someone who might have been abused as a child. I also think that the picture placed in 3 of the poems suggested the order they should be read according to the order we see them in Vessel of Notion. Homely tone, creation, the story of an abusive home, the start, the story of a relationship and an obstacle, the middle, the story of someone playing their part to hide a terrible deed after becoming a wolf, the end. As I said before, tone seems to suggest that Mary and the man on the phone found a common bond in talking about difficult pasts. However, the poems also seem to hint that the bond never went far enough for the man on the phone, with lines such as, "I thought you loved me, for once in my life I let you touch me, you ruined that night that wasn't homely, a gun to my right 'cause now I'm lonely," and, "She was kind to him, no, she was distant." This could easily have been down to whatever happened to Mary's family or mother in the past, or maybe she just felt that she didn't have time to start a relationship with her younger brother to look after and a job to hold down. But I think that Mary might have rejected him owing to an abuse of addictive substances on his part. There's a section of the YN poem that reads, "That home wasn't so homely once I plagued it right, with pills and bills and needles, so I plagued it right. The boxes where I sealed them, so I plagued it right." And if we recall, the final image of the password video made mention of a box that she put his toys into. This could be Hayden's understanding of Mary taking away the man on the phone's pills and bills and needles and locking them away from him. Thinking about it, it's possible that Hayden's box was the lunchbox that we've seen before, which would explain its presence during the breakdown part of Count Your Years. Maybe the man on the phone came to live with the two of them, but brought only trouble in the form of unpaid debts as well as addictive and potentially illegal substances that he'd been using to cope with his abusive childhood. And Mary, realising that such a person could easily get her only remaining family member taken from her if they found this stuff, kicked him out. So I think that the man on the phone decided that if she was being kept from him because of the younger brother, he'd help her with that problem by getting rid of Mary's younger brother. And I think that younger brother might have been the boy Hayden Coons. In a rage for the rejection and the man on the phone staged the Party 91st incident, Hayden and Mary died as a result. And, if I'm reading creation right, the man on the phone played a part to hide it, advanced through the company of Illusion Plus, but in his heart regretted that Mary died too. There's also the lines in Plague that make me wonder if it is addressing either Ivan or Andrew and Kara. The lines about not solving a mystery that instead the writer fed it to them. Does this mean that the writer of that poem leaked clues to either Ivan or the later pair, making them think they were solving a mystery only to try and keep them satisfied and stop them digging deeper? Or, more sinisterly, were they feeding them the knowledge in order to justify getting rid of them? If so, why? Or could it possibly be a hint that maybe Andrew wasn't as okay with Kara's rejection as he seemed to be? During the course of this video, we learned that the hold screen that Illusion Plus employees put into the videos they're working on are referred to by those employees as the back halls. And while the screen detailing that the video is on a partnership between Illusion Plus and Comic Cruise Lines says that no other back haul variations have been identified, we've already seen someone using them before, Ivy's messages in the first transfer video. Which makes me wonder why, in all the cases we see, why does every staff member list their name and their job title? Is there some reason, or is it merely habit for them? Like with Ivan, both Andrew and Kara use their back hall screens to communicate, at first because Kara's email had gone down, then later to hide their investigation into Ivan's disappearance. Judging by the date of July 13th, 2013 at the start of the video, then further text about editor's notes, we can hazard a guess that Kara and Andrew were communicating this way for at least 2 months, possibly even 3. July, August, September of 2013. Of the two of them, Andrew seems to have been interested in this longer than Kara. He already seems to know a little bit of the rumours surrounding Ivy's disappearance, for example, while Kara has to ask. However, this seems more because Andrew's actually been with Illusion Plus longer than Kara, who has only been there a year, probably starting after Ivan vanished. However, at the same time, Andrew knows that the company doesn't look kindly on their employees snooping, and I think that the back hall screen that merged with the video itself might have contained some important detail about how Andrew knew this. We do know that Ivan was mentioned during this screen, so it's likely that detail was tied to Ivan's disappearance. And, just as I was recording the third video, Aquanta showed off another back hall screen to the Discord, which I'm going to put up now so you can see it. I think by reading it, this one would slot in between the screen that had Andrew ask Kara out, and the last one, the two speaking, and does tell us a bit more about them. We learn that Andrew apparently has some issues with disassociation and commitment, something that Kara understands because she has a brother with similar issues. Andrew also turned up at Kara's house, something that made her a bit nervous, but it seems that they've managed to patch things up. Andrew then shows Kara something with an expired link, but given what they say afterwards, it seems like the video also used placeholder screens for communication. So far, the only other video we've seen that does this is the very first transfer tape, and it seems likely from the other things said that it was that video, which explains how Andrew came to know a lot about Ivan and what he was doing before he vanished. However, he mentions that he still had access to the warehouse. So for what purpose did he previously get this access? We also know that this interest in the case seems to have gained someone's attention, as the two of them are notably labelled as suspects in the screen that precedes the Little Red's Marine Mania section of the video. Suspects of the disappearance, maybe? I do also have a theory that the voice we hear in the brief cut-in during Tell-A-Hare might be Andrew's voice, talking to Kara and accidentally making her feel uneasy by letting his mouth run away with him. In the end, both of them decided to go check the same warehouse that Ivan was chased through for more clues. This first gets suggested around August, but Andrew then tries to ask Kara out, only to be turned down. The next back haul in the video after this asks if Kara is backing out on him, which I think means the two of them didn't end up sneaking into the warehouse then. However, Kara quickly recovers and sends Andrew a couple of links, the first few having expired but the last still being usable. This puts the two back on their mystery solving track, and they decide that they're going to visit the warehouse together and hopefully put everything to rest for a while. But the last back haul has only a single readable message from Ivey, who wasn't working on this video but a cartoon instead. And in it, Ivey seemed to be leaving the two of them a message. "I thought you guys would be home by now." This same back haul also has a massive block of binary, which the community got stuck into translating. "What is he doing?" "Finding you." "Where are they now?" "Finding you now." "But I'm here." "You were late." "Are you okay?" "Mary." "Mary, hello?" "The pig's in town. We all go deeper." "What do you mean?" "Mary, what do you mean?" "We can't go home yet. They need our help. Go deeper, Ivan." Another conversation, seemingly between Ivan and Mary, stuck into the end of the video that the two of them were editing. They went looking for him, but Ivan tried to come to them in the video to do what Mary had done for him, but also to find Eric, as this tape Andrew and Kara was working on was named Introduction Tape at the very start of this footage, and as I mentioned before, I think there's a possibility that it was Eric at the start of the tape asking us for our help in solving this. But Ivan was too late, because Andrew and Kara are already gone, and from the sounds of it, Ivey, the person Kara is dating, hasn't heard from either of them. They haven't come home. Andrew and Kara are in trouble because they've dug too deep, and now Mary and Ivan need to try and help them before they can go home, before it's too late. There are a bunch of other observations I've been able to make during this installment of Little Red, things I've noticed or questions I've been asking myself. Firstly, we see that the name of one of the creators of the Woodland Pals cartoon is Ali Burrow, and I think that this person is the Ali Michelle we heard about briefly in the first Little Red transfer. We know from that video that Hayden Burrow was the original creator of the Little Red character, but that Ali Michelle modified it later. During one of the back haul screens, Andrew tells us that Hayden Burrow's wife thought the character would be better off being more kid-friendly. It's entirely possible that Ali Michelle was credited under her married name for Woodland Pals, or else used the two names interchangeably. It's also possible to guess that the blanked out word from the golden fact the two are mentioned in was something like mature or similar. The second bit is that we have a little bit of evidence that suggests that somebody actually went looking for clues in a Comet cruise liner that was being run under Little Red's Marine Mania at the time. We quite obviously get that one clip near the end of someone with a flashlight peeking into a cabin and then possibly getting jumped, but pay close attention to the background of the documentary title screen. It's a thin, narrow corridor with a steep staircase which the camera operator is descending, holding a flashlight. Such steep stairways and narrow corridors are typical of ships, and suggest that there might even be more footage that was shot out there which wasn't included in Vessel of Notion. The third thing I want to bring up is the man in the suit. You know, that same faceless gentleman that keeps showing up everywhere. He was in the original transfer tape which was made in the 80s, and he's still in this new, more modern tape that's been dated 2013. While easily just a placeholder person, this man, or one who resembles him, actually appears in Vessel of Notion, completely real and with an actual face. The first time is during the opening part for the documentary during the title screen. The second picture shows a man who resembles our faceless friend in the darkness, and then we see what appears to be the same man briefly during the jewelry store tour. This guy was even a Qantas avatar for a while. So my question is, who is this guy, and does it even matter? Why has his design remained the same even as Little Red, Gally and Lox's design have changed down the years? And because he wears a suit, is he somehow related to the hand holding the paper bag in WLP2, just because that arm seems to be in a suit too? There also seems to be another minor pattern emerging relating to Lox and the pigs. specifically that the pig seems to want Lox's porridge. During Tell-A-Hare, among the things Hopper tells us is that they're taking the bear's porridge, and later on seems to be angry at the pigs for some reason, possibly because they are the ones who took it. Similarly, during the Acre Ridge game, while Lox is eating his porridge, the boss graphic, who resembles a pig, rises up behind him. Back in the first transfer tape, we do also briefly see a frowning pig after the fairy tale reading cartoon starts to go off the rails, which makes me wonder if they had something to do with why Lox was crying in that video. We also see that the pig seems to have been invited to the party in Woodland Pals, but then later is pressuring Lox to put it in, and since we see a paper lunch bag being handed to someone later, it's possible that the pig was demanding Lox put his porridge into the paper bag, which could be representing another typical lunch storage, a lunchbox. In this way, it almost feels like Mary is being compared to the pig, as we know that she's been previously described in a way that makes her seem untidy and off-putting, and I theorised that she took the man on the phone's addictive substances, his porridge. It's also possible that the pig represents the person that craves the addictive substances. In this way, the pig taking the porridge from Lox could be seen to be another side to Lox, similar to the clock from Count Your Years. Lox represents the scared person using the porridge to cope, while the pig represents the more aggressive and demanding urge inside that demands more and more porridge to sate their appetite. There's also the question of the second account that's been uploading videos, besides the Quanta Zone. Carno Avo was the uploader for Tell-A-Hare, Honey Bear, and the Password video, as well as being the owner of the Hayden document. This channel was created shortly before the trailer for Vessel of Notion came out, and there's no information on their channel. No avatar, no descriptions, nothing. The community even tried to see if Carno Avo was a cipher of something, but came up empty-handed. I ran it through an anagram scrambler, and while most of it was nonsense, I did come up with one, Nova Orca. Not that we've seen signs of a sea animal character yet, but maybe it's a hint at a new character. Probably not. Either way, Carno Avo might have some role to play, so will need to be watched. A brief thought I've had is about the older model of Red, who is apparently involved with the Party 91st incident. We see a Red dressed as a magician during the actual footage we get, but my attention was taken by a certain part of Little Red's history. Apparently, while Collide made the first Little Red animatronic, they were prototypes before this first one. That seems a very strange detail to point out for no reason. The rule of Chekhov's gun states that if something is brought up, it will see use at some point during the story. Could it be that the older model was a prototype maybe? I also wonder about the connection of the man on the phone to Ivan, especially since the last message he left for the man seems to have hinted that he worked for Illusion Plus and was in a role above Ivan. He specifically states that he pushes people, and feels that Ivan's investigation of Party 91st is poor thanks for this. Out of all the people from the first transfer tape, there's one name we haven't seen mentioned, Alan. Alan was the person that Ivan and Eric were using their backhaul screens to avoid. Alan seemed to be their superior. Is it possible that Alan did see those backhaul screens? Is it possible that Alan is the man on the phone? I also think that Honey Bear is in some way connected to the breakdown sequence of Count Your Years. Once sped up, the distorted audio at the start of Honey Bear is similar, if not the same, as the audio that played during it. The fact that it suddenly cuts into the sound of children playing just seems to suggest to me that being surrounded by children having fun and being noisy was indeed the trigger. Hearing it first in Lox's head, and then as it truly is. I also worry that the story of Andrew and Kara might begin to parallel that of the man on the phone and Mary a little, in that both men were rejected by the women they fell for. I'm hoping that the parallels don't lead to a similar outcome and see Andrew responsible for Kara's death at some point. I do wonder though, with Kara's brother having similar disassociation and commitment issues, could the man on the phone be Kara's brother? Or is Kara's brother the one who represents Lox, if not the man on the phone? The realistic galley also makes me wonder a little as to its context. We've only ever seen a realistic bird in Galley Broad the Way before, so I wonder if there's some connection there. I've also thought about whether it might have some connection to Little Red's first redesign. Apparently Little Red was redesigned to make him more kid-friendly, and we've still yet to discover when Galley, Lox, or any other character was invented or introduced. I wonder if, maybe, at first, Galley had a much more realistic appearance. What makes me wonder this is that when she changes, the hat also changes with her. Just slightly. This theory's a bit of a long stretch though. I also realised upon re-watching the first transfer tape that the position being covered in it is referred to as a digital cater at several points, most specifically during the map tour of the mall.
Here is where you should be. As a digital cater, you should not be seen by the consumers.
Digital cater is also shown on this small document here in Vessel of Notion, which at least tells us that this tape might too be aimed at employees in the same department. But why specifically are all the tapes in this department affected? And, for a final bit of speculation, I do wonder if a Quantum maybe squeezed in a clue into the trailer with his choice of song. Video killed the radio star. Ivan was an audio technician, so is this a clue to the job of the person who possibly killed him? Does this person work in visuals? And with that, we've finally reached the end of this long trip through all Vessel of Notion had to offer. Once again, I need to thank the community for helping track down all the pieces so I could study them. Without their help, this video would have been even more delayed than it ended up being. I'm sorry that I've not been able to piece this together as well as I would have liked, but hopefully I've given you something to think about. There does seem to be more little reds coming, so maybe we'll be given more pieces and more context and make it all fit better next time. After all, we still have a lot of questions to be answered, such as what happened to Andrew and Kara, and I'd like to see more Woodland Pal stuff in future, if there's any more to come. But in all this content, I feel like I forgot something that was kind of important to say. Probably doesn't matter.